Good evening, everyone, and thank you for tuning in. This is Ask Grid episode 10. I'm Hasna Harus. Joining me today is my colleague Shamal Dalmaratna, Business Development Manager, along with the main man himself, Navin De Silva, MD Grid Property Group Australia. Hi, guys, how is it going?
Hi Hasna, hi Shamal.
Hi Navin.
What have we got in store today?
We've got a ton of questions, Navin. Put on your seatbelts and you have a lot of answering to do.
Let's go.
So Navin, the first question which I have got is from one of our regulars, which is of course why Australia? Why you want to select Australia out of every other country you have real estate? So he's asking why.
A great question. It's one of the common questions we get asked, I think, from especially overseas investors. I think it's mainly for a few reasons. One is the stability of the country, especially when you're investing overseas as an overseas investor. You got to be looking at the stability of the economy on where you are investing in. So I think number one is stability. Number two is if you look at Australia, the population is only 25 million people, which is quite low if you look at the size of the continent. And there's so much potential to grow, and the population growth is quite phenomenal. Melbourne itself, before COVID, we had about 120,000 people per year. I mean, as long as the population growth is rising, housing market will never, ever go down. So that's number two. Number three is even after a pandemic, economy is very strong, and especially the mining sector is booming. A lot of exports are happening, and the Australian dollar is very, very strong. So we have found a lot of overseas investors investing just to gain the advantage of the Aussie dollar over certain currencies. So I think those are the three main factors for someone to invest right now in Australia.
Yeah. So I hope, my dear friend, you got a very good answer for a question. And moving on, I mean, there's another question. As a non-resident, how can you buy property in Australia? Is it legal?
Yeah, it is totally legal. Any foreigner can buy a property in Australia. It is quite regulated. There is a body called Foreign Investment Review Board, which is the government authority, and it's part of the Australian Taxation Office. As a foreigner, when they buy a property, you have to get the approval from FIRB, and we take care of this end-to-end process. And FIRB or the government will approve this as long as the property is brand new. So in essence, as a foreigner, they can buy any property as long as it's brand new. They cannot buy an old or a used property as a foreigner. Apart from that, any foreigner can buy a property. It's totally legal. And it is a freehold property which will be titled under the foreigner's name.
All right. So he's also asking, Navin, if you can explain what is this end-to-end process?
Yeah. So in terms of our service, or?
Yeah. Yes, okay. That's what he's asking.
Yeah. So what we do is it can be from multiple reasons. It can be for investment. It can be for their kids. It can be for them to migrate. Whatever the reason is, based on their requirement, we find the suitable property for them. We will obtain the required foreign approvals. If they want to get a loan, we can organize that as well. They can borrow up to 60% of the property value. And then if it is an investment, we will rent it out for them, manage it for them, and resell it for them when they want to. So we take care of the end-to-end process. Hasna, what have you got?
Okay, so we were talking about the pandemic. I just want to know, Australia has been very proactive and strict when it comes to like controlling the situation and the outbreak. How does this affect the property market, and will it have an impact on the prices and the activity levels?
Obviously, during the pandemic, when there was a lockdown, there was an impact because nobody could move. But as you rightly said, Australia as a country, they came out of it pretty quickly. And last week there was another scare, so there was a lockdown for 5 days. But apart from that, right after the pandemic, market was going crazy. The main reason for that is government offered a lot of grants, a lot of stimulus into the economy through grants for people who are buying for the first time, and this has created a real property boom, which is not as yet, but I think it's coming. It's there's so much of demand, there's so much of inquiries, and land developers are struggling to keep up with the demand. So it's very, very crazy, especially in the land market, in the suburbs where people are buying their first homes. People are flocking in because there's benefits of $35,000 to $50,000 on offer as a resident or a citizen when you're buying the first home. So historically, this has been proven. Right after each and every pandemic, the property market in Australia has gone up, which is quite the opposite of a lot of people think. During the pandemic, there were a lot of talks about 30 to 40% drops in the market, which is never going to happen. And to answer the question, short answer is there's no impact at all. In fact, it's crazy out here.
So this would be the perfect time for an investment.
It is the right time for sure. Yeah.
Right. On that note, how do we make the payment? I mean, has it got to be dollars?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately the dollars have to come in. Everything is priced in dollars, but whatever the country the investor is investing from, obviously, if they don't have dollars in an account, it has to be a local currency wherever they're from. But ultimately, it has to come in converted into Aussie dollars. But yeah, so everything, all the pricing is in Aussie dollars, and it has to hit an Australian dollar account.
Yeah, and
Right.
Naveen, I got another question for the same question which Hasna asked.
Yeah.
So when you are sending money, what's the security like? This person is asking me, he's sending money from Sri Lanka, so he has not even seen what he's going to buy a property. So
Yeah.
what's a guarantee now we can give him?
Yeah. So the guarantee is that the property is not under anyone else's name; it's under their own name, and it's a freehold property. They have a signed contract in place under their name, and nobody is going to take away from that. And also, the money is always coming into a lawyer's trust account. As I said, real estate industry is so regulated, and you cannot mess around with someone's money, and it can end up in a jail term. So it's quite serious. And in terms of the guarantee, he has the property under his name. It's freehold, and the money is always coming to a lawyer's trust account, which nobody can touch.
All right. Uh, there are a lot of questions actually just flowing in. One of them is how will I get PR if I buy a property? One gentleman is asking me.
Yeah. Short answer is no. Just for buying a property, you can't get the PR, but it will certainly help because it shows that you have an interest. But that's a totally different subject altogether. We can definitely help using one of our immigration lawyers. There's few categories of PR where they can go under, either business migration or skilled migration. And based on their situation and circumstances, they can buy a property and then at the same time go on the PR track they choose. There was
Yes,
another one.
Yes, Mr. Fernando, hope that answered your question.
Yeah, there's another one. What's your opinion on the top 3 suburbs to invest right now? Yeah, if they're talking about Melbourne, I would say Mikalam is one of the strongest suburbs to invest right now. That's in the north. In the west, we have places like Geelong, Rockbank, which will definitely rise in value because of the infrastructure developments. And then on the southeast, you get Clyde as well as Officer, which are developing because there's a train station and shopping center coming up. If you're looking at Sydney, again, there's a place called Leppington, Austral. These are suburbs which are very close to the Western Sydney airport, which will be coming up in 2026. And if someone is talking about Brisbane, it will be the southeast of Brisbane, which is between Gold Coast and Brisbane, especially the Logan area that's going to develop in the next 5 years.
Right. Sorry, Navin, since
Yes,
we
Navin.
were on the PR,
Yeah.
I just need to know, this question was from a parent.
Yeah.
So the child has a PR.
Yeah.
So she just needs to know if the loan will proceed, if the loan is to proceed through him.
Yeah.
And she is funding the money. Can the parents be a part of the agreement?
They can be, again, depending on the situation. So say, for example, if the child has PR and child has a job which can service a loan, the best way to do it is you get the loan through the child's income. Then the property will be under the child's name, because you can't have one person on the contract and one person on the loan. It has to be the same. So but that is if the son or daughter has a job and if they can service the loan, that's the best way to go, because they are going to save some money in terms of stamp duty and foreign investment review board fees. If the son or daughter does not have a job, it's not possible to get a loan without a job, and then it has to go under the parent's name. Then a foreign investor element will be involved. Again, it's possible, but you have to pay the additional fees required.
All right, and I've got another question. So this lady is asking, she is planning on a PO investment. So she's asking whether what is the best place to invest? Is it Melbourne, Sydney, Adelaide, or Perth? For a PO investment, I think she's asking.
It's a tricky question. I would say Melbourne right now. Having said that, Perth is going, it definitely will rise in value because of the mining boom. But in terms of stability, I would say Melbourne, because there's so much of potential in Melbourne.
All right, Mrs. Pires, hope you got an answer for a question. Moving on, I mean, to the next question. When you are selecting a particular suburb, what are the main criteria an investor should look for? And are these places are master planned? Another question we just got in. Yeah.
Yeah. So first question is, that's a great question. The key elements to look for is the development potential. When I say development potential, to see what is coming up. So there can be shopping centers, there can be schools. If there are shopping centers, schools, proximity to the airport, proximity to the city, proximity to the transport, if there's new train stations coming in, and then if there's more retail stores, it's about location, convenience, and mainly the infrastructure developments. There's 5 major projects running in Melbourne if you're looking at Melbourne. Similarly, there's more infrastructure projects running in other states as well. If you target these areas, which are the benefited areas or suburbs, because of these infrastructure developments, you simply cannot go wrong, because these are the government is spending billions of dollars on these, and there will be a ripple effect on the upside on the suburb appreciation. Sorry, what was the second question? About the master plan communities.
Yes.
Yeah, so master plan community is, they plan it so well, meaning before they execute on it, they know exactly where the parks are going to be. They know exactly where the schools are going to be. This is an exercise with the local council and the developer. So they know exactly where the schools are going to be. They know how many parks per neighborhood. So they go into very minute details of the parks, the schools, if there's hospitals, shopping centers, train stations. All these elements will be laid out so that before you buy a piece of land from that community, each and every buyer knows where exactly these infrastructure projects will be coming in.
Okay, Hasna, you have anything on your side?
I just need to know, okay, this is one Miss Kareem is asking. What is the best apartment project happening in Melbourne right now for a pure investment?
Oh, there's plenty. The best apartment project. Okay, I would say based on their requirements too. But if it's, I mean, if it's an apartment project, we mainly look at universities because that's where the growth is. There is a project in South Melbourne where one of the campuses of University of Melbourne will be building a brand new campus within 800 meters to this project. That's probably the best one. It will be completed in 2023. It just started construction, and that's a massive project. 2 towers with a 5-star hotel. That's probably the best one. But there's so many. There's so many which one might like. Again, based on, say, for example, if someone's son or daughter is going to University of Monash University, that's a suburb in the southeast, and then we might suggest something like that because it will be convenient for their family. Whereas if it's a pure investment, as I said, you just have to look at the infrastructure development, especially the universities if it's an apartment.
I hope that answered her question. Shama.
Yeah, Naveen, another question which I came across is this lady is asking whether which is best for investment. Is it a house or apartment? And also she's asking whether does she get a guarantee for their rental?
Okay. If you're looking at apartments and houses with the land, we strongly recommend lands with houses because that's where the appreciation is anywhere in the world. Apartments are really good if your priority is convenience, if your priority is sending your kids to the uni with the convenience in mind. Those are great options. But if you're looking at investment, return on investment, go with land and you cannot go wrong.
Yeah, and also one more question from her. What is the percentage of ROI she's asking?
Yeah, so if you're looking at house and land, you're looking at least 17% per annum when you sell the property in about 5 to 6 years. We have another one. When is the Sydney new airport going to be completed? I think I answered that before as well. So it will be completed in 2026, which is 5 years away, but that area is going to go crazy because of the airport.
Yeah, another question which I came across is from one Mr. Disanaika. Mr. Disanaika is asking whether if actually it is his son who is planning on applying for the PR, and he's asking whether can he get any points if the son is going to go to Canberra if they invest in a project, a property.
Yes, Canberra is probably the only state which does that. You get 5 points when you invest in a property over $250,000. And that is if you're going through skill migration, you get 5 points for owning a property there.
All right. And also he's asking, do I get the freehold ownership?
Yes, they do get freehold ownership. But if they're referring to Canberra, it's always leasehold because there's ACT as a state, there's a very limited number of lands. From north to south in Melbourne, if you drive, it will take about 1.5 hours, whereas it will be half of that or even 35-40 minutes in Canberra. So the land is very scarce. Because of that, you have to always get the land from the government, which is leasehold, 99-year lease. It's the same for everyone. It's not only for foreigners.
Right. So also
Impressive questions.
Yeah. So the gentleman is asking some property options. So we will get back to you, sir, regarding the property options soon after the session.
Yeah.
Hassan, you have anything in your way?
Yeah. So Navin was talking about the grants.
Yeah.
Could you like explain a little bit more on the grants? I mean, is the government issuing grants for foreigners as well?
Answer is no. The government grants is only for Australian citizens and PR holders. There's few of them. So number one is, as an Australian citizen, they get 15,000 right now if you're building a home. It's called Home Builder Grant. Number two is, as a first home buyer, when you buy a property, you can be a PR holder or a citizen, you get $10,000. That's about 25,000. And then you, as a first home buyer, if you're buying a property, the stamp duty on the property up to 600,000, it's free of charge. So that's a massive savings there as well. If you're an investor, you still get 50% off on a property. And if it goes over a certain number, you get 25% off. So there's so much of grants on offer for Australian citizens and PR holders. What we have done is we are working with a number of builders. We have really worked hard to get this done. We are offering a grant from us along with the builders of $15,000. We are matching the grant by the government for foreigners until 31st of March. In fact, we are doing a webinar on the 4th of March, 2021, which is a Thursday, for focusing in Sri Lanka, India, and Dubai for all investors, explaining this process. We are doing this webinar, myself and Deborah Fuller from Metricon, which is the largest build in Australia, will be coming to you live to bring this on to you. That's where we explain how we are going to explain the end-to-end process of how to invest, what is the construction process, what it's going to look like, what are the benefits, and also how to claim this grant of 15,000 for foreigners.
Right. And how do we register to the link? Is there?
Yeah, so we can put the link on the comments on the registration link to the webinar. The moment you register, you'll get the details how you can log in.
Right. Shamal, do you have any more questions towards Navin?
Yeah, actually, I have one more question which just came across. Navin, this Mr. Fernando, another Fernando, is asking how much money, whether they could borrow from Australian financial institutions or bank. What's a percentage?
It's as a foreigner, it's 60%, 60 to 70%. By looking at the application, it will be 60 to 70%.
Okay, so provided the necessary documentation,
and we will walk them through the whole process, which we are doing for clients.
All right. Hope you got the answer, Mr. Roy Fernando. Yeah, please, Mr. Roy Fernando. Thank you.
Excellent questions. We'll probably call it a day. It's been almost half an hour. A lot of questions. Keep them flowing in. We can definitely touch base again next week. We are coming to you live every Saturday night, Melbourne time, Saturday evening, Sri Lanka or Indian time. And we just want to add value to you by answering most of the frequently asked questions for that particular week from our teams. And so that we hope that it will add some value to you. Until next week, goodbye.
Stay safe, everyone.
Bye.
Enjoy your weekend, guys in Sri Lanka, and very good night to everyone down under. Stay safe.